History is full of fascinating facts and stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. However, not everything we've learned about the past is entirely accurate. Hello viewers, and welcome to our video on Top 10 Commonly Believed Historical Facts. However, before we start our countdown, we would appreciate it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel and also press the bell icon. So let's dive into the video. Number 1. The United States was founded in 1776. The idea that the United States was founded in 1776 is a commonly held misconception. While this date does mark an important moment in American history, it wasn't when the country was actually founded. In reality, the United States has a much more complex and nuanced history than many people realize. The first European settlements were established on the continent as early as the 16th century, and Native American communities had existed here for thousands of years before that. It wasn't until 1787 that the U.S. Constitution was created and ratified, laying out a framework for how government would function in this new nation. Even then, it took several more years to establish key elements like Congress and the Supreme Court. So while July 4th may be celebrated as America's birthday each year, it's important to remember that there is much more to our national story than just one specific date or event. Number 2. Julius Keyser was assassinated by Brutus. One of the most famous assassinations in history is that of Julius Keyser, which has been depicted countless times in literature and film. The commonly accepted story is that Keyser was betrayed by his friend Brutus and stabbed to death on the steps of the Roman Senate. However, recent research suggests this may not be entirely accurate. While it's true that Brutus played a role in the assassination, he was not alone. There were at least 60 co-conspirators involved. Additionally, some historians suggest that Keyser's death may have been more politically motivated than personal. Furthermore, there are also questions about how exactly Keyser died. Some accounts suggest he was stabbed only once or twice, while others claim he received up to 23 wounds. It's likely we'll never know for sure what really happened on that fateful day in March 44 BC. Number 3. Christopher Columbus discovered America. The commonly believed historical fact that Christopher Columbus discovered America is actually a myth. In reality, there were already indigenous people living on the land for thousands of years before Columbus arrived. Columbus's journey was sponsored by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain in 1492 with the intention of finding a new trade route to Asia. However, he ended up landing in the Caribbean islands and later explored Central and South America, but never set foot on what we know as North America today. Number 4. George Washington was the first president of the United States. It is widely believed that George Washington was the first president of the United States. While this statement is partially true, it ignores some important historical facts. In reality, there were several presidents before Washington, but they served under a different system of government. The Articles of Confederation established a weak federal government with no executive branch, meaning there was no official president until the ratification of the Constitution in 1788. Even then, George Washington was not immediately elected as president. Instead, he served as the presiding officer over the Constitutional Convention, and later became unanimously elected by the Electoral College in 1789. Number 5. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin. Abraham Lincoln is one of the most beloved presidents in American history. He led the country through its Civil War, abolished slavery, and delivered some of the greatest speeches ever given by an American leader. But did you know that the story of Lincoln being born in a log cabin is actually a myth? It's true. While it's often said that Lincoln was born in a humble log cabin on Sinking Spring Farm near Hodgenville, Kentucky, historical records show that this may not be entirely accurate. In fact, there are conflicting accounts about where exactly he was born and what kind of dwelling his family lived in. Some sources claim that Lincoln was actually born in a more substantial house on nearby Knob Creek Farm. Others suggest that his family had moved to a different cabin by the time he was born. Number 6. Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. It is a commonly held belief that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. However, this is not entirely true. While Edison did improve upon previous designs and patented his own version of the light bulb in 1879, he was not the first person to create one. Many inventors before Edison had created their own versions of the light bulb, including Humphrey Davy, who demonstrated an electric arc lamp in 1802, and Joseph Swan, who patented his own incandescent lamp in Britain just 1 year prior to Edison's patent. Edison's contribution to the development of the light bulb lies more so in his improvements on its design rather than its invention. He found a way to make it burn longer by using a carbon filament instead of bamboo or cotton thread like other inventors had used. Number 7. The Eiffel Tower was built in 1889. The Eiffel Tower is one of the most iconic landmarks in the world. It stands tall at 324 meters and attracts millions of tourists every year to Paris, France. However, many people believe that it was built in 1889 for the World's Fair, but this is not entirely true. Construction on the Eiffel Tower began in January 1887 and took 2 years to complete. Gustave Eiffel, a French engineer and architect, designed the tower as an entrance arch for the World's Fair held in Paris in 1889. The tower was also meant to commemorate the centennial of the French Revolution. Number 8. The Wright brothers were the first to invent and fly an airplane. When people think of the first airplane, they often associate it with the Wright brothers. However, this is actually a myth. While the Wright brothers were certainly pioneers in aviation and played a significant role in its development, they were not the first to invent or fly an airplane. In fact, there were many other inventors and aviators who came before them. For example, Richard Pearse of New Zealand successfully flew his own aircraft several months before the Wright brothers' historic flight at Kitty Hawk. Number 9. Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon. While Neil Armstrong was undoubtedly an incredible astronaut who accomplished many feats in his lifetime, he was not actually the first man on the moon. That honor goes to Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, who became the first human being to orbit Earth in 1961. However, Armstrong will always be remembered for his iconic words upon setting foot on the lunar surface. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." This momentous achievement reminds us of humanity's boundless potential and inspires us all to reach for the stars. Number 10. Medieval people believed in a flat Earth. In some quarters, the fact that the Earth is a globe is regarded as a modern discovery, and there are few things people trying to attack the supposed backwardness of the medieval period like more than claiming they all thought the Earth was flat. People also claim Columbus was opposed by flat earthers, but that's not why people doubted him. So this was our today's video. I hope you all like this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe my channel, and also share it with your friends and family. We will be back soon with a new video. Till then, keep supporting and take care.